I think a large thing with the dating generation today is we're scared to have some of these harder conversations and ask these questions because we think they are limiting or belittling or they hinder romance or fun or whatever it may be. We forsake this peace and clarity early on and we pay for it later. Have you evaluated why you want to be dating someone? Do you know what you're looking for in a partner? When we're ready to answer these questions, it brings forth a maturity in our love and relationships. I wish we could tune out distractions more in this fear of coming across too intense, whatever it may be, and just own who we are. Welcome back to the Dear Future Husband podcast. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm so glad you're here today. And most of you watching are likely from our last episode with my husband, Arden, when we talked about how we met. And there was one very clear thing that most of you who watch wanted to know. And that was, what were those questions I asked him on our second date that made him sure he wanted to marry me? Now, when I asked these questions, I did not know that they would bring that result. I maybe even wondered, hey, if I ask him too many questions up front, will this scare him away? But I was at a place where I knew I was ready to be married and I didn't want to just keep dating unsuccessfully, haphazardly. I wanted to date with intention. And the only way I knew to do that was to be clear. So in this episode, I'm going to give you 5 of the questions that I asked him on our date. Now, if you're thinking, wait, what questions are you talking about? How did you even meet? I want you to pause and go listen or watch the other video. I will link it here on YouTube and then come back and we'll dive into those questions. But for you that have been wondering and curious, I'm excited to give you these questions. Now, I do want to preface and say, asking questions like these may not work for your second date. They may work sooner or later. What I want to say is that these are questions that are going to help you in your evaluation process of, is this really, possibly, potentially the person for me? And are they intimidated by these questions? When you ask them, when you feel like it's the right timing, what are their responses, both in their demeanor and their actual answers? These are questions that are going to help you when you are evaluating. And I believe you should ask them at a point when you are really sure, hey, maybe I know that there are potential feelings starting to evolve, or I just really don't want to beat around the bush. I was at that place. I didn't want to just date to date. I wanted to date with intention. So perhaps you've known this person for so long, you've been friends, and now you want to evaluate, hey, are we maybe a match? Do we really want to go down that dating pathway? Like, let's just put it out there and see what our hopes and our intentions, our motives, our expectations are. Or you've been on a couple of dates, maybe not your second again, maybe it's like your 5th, and you're thinking, I really want to know if this person is serious. Like, I want to know before I give my heart to them that we're heading down a similar trajectory. And maybe you have some other questions you would want to switch or add on to these. But let's dive into the 5 questions I asked my not even fully boyfriend at the time, but this person I was starting to see and who is now my husband, that I asked him and that you may want to save for your next date and ask someone yourself. Now, again, we had already had our first date. I knew some of those hobbies and interests he had. I knew some loose, sketch, if you will, of who he was and who he wanted to become. Now, I was at the point of, hey, we're long distance. If we're going to date seriously, if I'm going to let myself start having feelings for you, I need to know a few things. The first question I asked was, what are your near future plans? Now, sometimes we can try to do like a 10 or 5-year plan and we hold it loosely, like, hey, this is something I'm working towards. This is a dream I have one day. Maybe it's in the near future. Maybe it's a little farther off. These are some hopes that I have, but I'm also open to whatever the Lord wants to do. This isn't so much legalistic, but it is an indicator of what they're serious about, their discipline, their pathways, what they are willing and unwilling to do, maybe where they want to be, the type of environment and career they want to pursue, the endeavors that are on their heart. When I asked Arden this question, he gave me an answer to some things that are not yet fulfilled that he is still praying into and praying for. He gave me some indicators of things he was doing at that time that were fulfilled in the next 5 years. But what this did for me is showed me, one, very clearly for him specifically, he was driven and dedicated. At just 23, he had already established this nonprofit and this organization that was really impactful in so many ways and was a big leap of faith for him. And I saw, even from him showing me where he was already with that and where he longed to be, the type of man and leader, the dedication that he had, the creativity that he had, all of these attributes. And I could tell that from the way he spoke about it, the way that he showed his initiative, spoke of what he had already done, and I saw very much the fruits of a leader within him. And this answer doesn't only have to be career driven. It can show you that they have an adventurous spirit. Like, hey, in the next 5 years, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I want to travel here. I want to do this. Or, I'm actually in school for this right now. I'm interning at this place. I'm serving in my church. I actually want to just become more aware of who God is and how he's speaking to me, of his presence. I want to grow deeper in my faith. I want to learn Spanish. I want to do, whatever it may be. Little bonus for this question is you might be thinking, okay, well, what's a green flag with this answer and what's a red flag? Now, if their pathways are completely different from yours, like you are in school, you want to be settled, you want to be close to family and community, you want to grow in an area that's going to require more discipline, and their answer is completely discipline-less, or they're just like, I don't know, I don't have any plans, or my big plan is to move to another country. Some of those things where it's saying, hey, either our internal making or our output goals are very much not aligning. That could be something of, oh, that's great, and I love that you are passionate about that, but it's very obvious I am not, or that could be conflicting for us down the road. So maybe not a full red flag, but something to evaluate and talk about more. Something I would call a red flag is if you are someone that knows what you want to be driven, and you want someone that is willing to lead, which I think is a great aspect for a woman to be looking for in a partner, is if they're showing zero interest in that, they laugh at the idea of having a plan, they laugh at the idea of discipline, or they're just like, I don't know, I just don't want to be ruled, I want to be my own person, I just want to live it up. That might be red flag. One of his answers that stuck out very much to me as a green flag and led into the second question I asked him was his response that in the next 5 years, I want to be married. He knew that he was at a place where he was ready to partner with someone, to fall in love. Of course, when the timing and the person aligned, but that was very much something that he wanted to pursue and do well. He didn't want to run away from it. He didn't want to just date. He didn't want to just put that off later. He was ready and willing and praying for that. That was such an alignment to, one, where I was in my hope for a relationship, but also in my heart of, Lord, I do not want to date unless it is someone you're leading me to, because I see that as a distraction if it's not from you. I see that as a way to hurt myself or hurt someone else, because if you're not in it, it's only going to be messy. If I just date casually, that's going to not lead to fruitful results. I need to not be haphazard. I not need to just be seeking something for myself, but I need to know, hey, I'm going to date with the intention to marry. And I love. I mean, I feel like every woman that wants to be married would love that answer of, I want to be married. And that was something that he knew he wanted, he was willing to pursue. Which led me into his second question. What's your dating experience looked like, and what are your dating intentions? And I know you might be thinking like, whoa, am I allowed to ask a guy that? If it's someone that you've been on a date with, or he's showing you, hey, I'm really interested in you, you're, I believe, fully available to say, why are you interested, and why are you interested in me? I think those are two different answers. Like, I'm interested because I really want to find my partner, or I'm ready to be married when the timing aligns. And, once we've done our due diligence of the evaluation process, which is dating, what it's for, not just companionship. But that's something that I want to pursue. I want to pursue marriage. And I'm interested in you because, our future plans, our morals, our initiatives, our personalities, our attraction, all of this aligns. When I asked my potential boyfriend about his dating experience, I was not pulling the crazy future girlfriend card of, tell me everyone you've dated, everyone you've kissed. I need to know their names and addresses. Maybe I wanted to do that because I was like, you never liked anyone else, right? Just me? No? Anyone else guilty of being there? What I was asking is, what do you think of dating? Is dating this avenue just to meet women and to hook up and to get to know people or to fulfill something within your own ego, honestly? Or is this a mechanism for you to evaluate of who am I going to marry? And I feel like Arden honestly is the poster child for good dating, because he told me, yeah, I dated in this way. There are times where I could have done stuff better, I'll be honest, but mainly I've been going out trying to keep it semi-casual, not just sweep people off our feet and get all these feelings involved, but to really do a good job of saying this is who I am and getting to know someone well. And if it isn't working, honoring them and having clarity, follow-up conversations, but not dragging it on. Because the reality is, unless the first person you date is your future spouse, you're going to have some of those moments. And so it spoke so much to me of his character, of how he honored women in dating, and how he admitted to, yeah, I could have done this better. Or there was times when I was at a low point in high school or whatever it may be, when I didn't do it well. It showed me that he had clarity of how he wanted to lead his relationships and the type of man he wanted to be. And I want to clarify, there are things within our dating experience, within our past, that we did not divulge all on the second date. That would be weird. We didn't even divulge all those things within dating. There were some things that were very vulnerable and intimate that we shared with each other once we got engaged. Not as a hiding it until like, gotcha, and then I'll tell you this and that. But there is this natural progression of the closer we get, the more I know I can trust you, the more role that I know that you play in my life, or I'm going to process things with you. I'm going to let you into some parts of me and to share that. And so do not feel like if I'm saying you have to tell someone your dating experience, you have to tell them, yeah, I've done all these things wrong. Feel free to judge me. If it's not up to your liking, you're welcome to leave. What I'm saying is show them, hey, this is based on my past experience and where I'm at presently, this is my evaluation of dating. This is how I want to date. I want to get to know you on a few more dates. I want to let those all be intentional. I want to be romantic, but I also have boundaries. That's what I'm talking about with dating experience and dating presently, what your expectations are. Arden told me at that time, my intention is to date, to marry, and I want to do that over the course of a few months. Whether that turns into a year or it's like 2 months, which it was in our case, I want those to all be intentional and well used, well managed. I want to honor your purity. I want to lead with clarity. I don't want you to have to be guessing what my feelings are, or if I'm leading you down this wrong path. I want to give you a glimpse of what the intention is. And if it at any point doesn't align, I will let you know. And I think that's one of the best things you can do, especially as a man when you're dating. And this goes back to what I said earlier. Do not feel like we have to tiptoe around these conversations and just hope for the best because we're too much or whatever that may be. If the person is aligned with you and they're mature and they really are dating for the sake of dating with intention, these questions shouldn't scare them off. If you're asking of like, hey, I just want to know where we're at, that's not a question we should be scared of. I don't know why this has come about of, we have to do the game of chase someone, or we have to play it cool and act like we don't care. No, we don't want to give our heart prematurely, but we also don't want to just give it without question of, I'll just toss my heart out there, and if they get it, cool, but I don't want to look like I'm putting too much effort in. No, quite the opposite. And I would say for years, for decades, before the modern era of dating, this was the norm of, okay, you want to ask me out? Why? Tell me about yourself. What do I need to know? You are a prize, and that does not mean that you have to be prideful or arrogant about it, but you should know who you're getting to know. And you can ask that without having to have all the answers spilled out right there, but also without having to guide yourself under this gaze of mystery and romance. Romance does not mean chase or unclarity. It means clearness, and it means fun. It means interest and intrigue, and you can have all of that along with purposeful conversations and questions. I think a large thing with the dating generation today is we're scared to have some of these harder conversations and ask these questions because we think they are limiting or belittling, or they hinder romance or fun or whatever it may be. And for that, we forsake this peace and clarity early on, and we pay for it later. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to go in and grill someone, but these questions don't have to just be daunting. They can be fun and illuminating of, hey, what are your future plans? Wow, I never thought about that. Tell me more. Or I'm ready for marriage because I'm excited about this. You're not saying, hey, I want to marry you tomorrow. Are you ready to marry me? You're saying, You as an individual, is this something that you feel called to, that you're ready to pursue? And I think if someone can't answer that question, they're going to have a harder time pursuing that avenue. And then you for yourself, have you asked yourself that question? Have you evaluated why you want to be dating someone? Do you know what you're looking for in a partner? When we're ready to answer these questions, it brings forth a maturity in our love and relationships in all areas. Like, ask yourself, why do I want friends? Why do I want to be in a community? Why do I want this job? I wish we could tune out distractions more in this fear of coming across too intense, whatever it may be, and just own who we are. I'll say it this way. I remember in high school being passionate about literature and some of these things, but thinking, oh, what if people think I'm weird? I probably should just tone that down and be more likable. And those very attributes that I dulled down are things that I love now, and I wish I would have spent more time pursuing. The attributes that I thought I needed to be more likable or play it cool are things that I disliked about myself that were haphazardous in that timing. And I think that reigns true in different areas of our life. Now, of course, I'm not saying, again, you have to be intense about the things that are delicate, like the getting to know someone stage. Again, you don't have to have them fill out, a resume before you go on that first date. But feel free to say, I love my career and I want to pursue that. That's something that's passionate about me, and I want someone that's going to support that. Or I love kids and I can't wait to have kids. It's not saying I want to have 8 kids with you tomorrow, but that is something I'm passionate about, which leads me to question number 3. I did ask him, are you close with your family, and what is that iterated to you of how do you want a family? Do you want to have kids? Are you wanting to be a father? Do you want kids like in a year or in 5 years? Or do you not know? And that's okay. Now, if you ask me personally, especially after having kids, I would say that children are a blessing from the Lord. They only enrich your family and they bring so much more purpose to your marriage. But I do know that that is a decision and that is a commitment that you both fulfill together. It takes a mother and a father to really rear and raise a child, but then also if you're doing anything that big by yourself, it's going to fuel into your dynamic and your relationship. If someone is not supportive of their partner's career decision, if they're not supportive of spending time with each other's family, like these really big ticket items in your relationship, if there is not this coming togetherness in whatever way that looks like for you, then it creates potential problems that are going to put a strain on your relationship. Like if you just did not like your husband's family at all, that's going to put a strain on him of, wow, I feel like I've just split my time between my family and my wife. If you really want kids and your partner really doesn't, that's going to create a strain. And so I think that's one of those questions. Again, you're not saying, how many kids do you want? And I need to know their names tomorrow before we can go on our second date. Now, I will say people's perceptions of this can change as they get older or as they're married. Maybe you say, I'm kind of on the fence. I've had some scenarios where that made me question it, or I wonder if I'm going to be a good parent. And if you're in that camp, I would also advise you to figure out what is driving those decisions, what could be leading you to that decision. If there really is something traumatic within your past with your upbringing or something you saw with siblings, whatever it may be, I would sort that out with someone you trust now, so you can make a clear evaluation and then bring God into it. I think any of these areas within our life that feel daunting, or man, I just don't know if I'd be able to do that. Whether it's, can I commit to someone for all my life? Is it, if I could say, yes, I love you in sickness and in health, whatever it may be, bring the Lord into that, because there's often places in our heart that where we can just throw up blockades. And I know I'm getting a little deeper on this, but I think it's worth saying, at least it's a pausing moment of, some of the things that I thought, man, there's no way I can do that. Or, wow, Lord, would you really, do I have what it takes to be married? Do I have what it takes to be a mom? Do I have what it takes to run a podcast? Whatever it may be personally, bringing the Lord into that, because it's actually through our weaknesses that we see his strength come about, where we learn, man, I'm not fully equipped enough to do this as myself, but with your grace, with your teaching, with your prompting, with your instruction, I learned that I have what I need, that you supply my own weaknesses, you calm my confusion, you calm my anxieties. And so some of these areas, maybe that's an invitation where the Lord's like, hey, let's work on that, me and you. Maybe not once and for all when you're single. There's things that obviously, the Lord's always teaching us, or he can continue to work on within our marriages. I'll say I've had conversations with other couples and they've gotten to this stage of their dating. And again, maybe this is one of the ones you save for a little bit later. That's okay. But they get to this question and they've had mixed results. And there's a time where we can push and you say like, no, the Lord's given me dreams about having my future children. He's put this heavily on my heart. This is something where if it's a no, then it could be a deal breaker for our relationship. But if it's, I've thought about it, I'm not quite sure, I'm curious, lean into that and pray for, Lord, if you want us to be aligned, will you align this in our hearts? Will you make it clear? Will you stir that desire in his heart that maybe has not fully developed? There's things where when we get some of these answers, they could be a pause and reflect or pray into. That's always what I'm going to say is there's a lot of great dating advice. There are some red flags. There are some clear, hey, let's not do that. But sometimes it's, that's making me sense that I need more clarity. And I think that the holy wisdom is our best answer. It's great to go to friends. It's great to seek counsel. But there's so much within what the Lord can do of aligning, of rechanging, or just sharpening and strengthening and making something clear. And this is very much one of those avenues. But in practical terms, again, if you are someone that's like, I cannot wait to be married, to be a mom, and they're saying, I'm not quite sure I'm ready for marriage, or I don't think I'm ever going to want kids, that's something to take into consideration. What I don't want to see as a big sister moment, if I can, is I don't want to see you try to force a square peg into a round hole of thinking, well, I can change that, or maybe we'll work on it. If the Lord's whispering to you, hey, let's pray into that, let me do my work there, that's great. But if you're just getting, hey, this is obviously not aligning and I really just want to be in a relationship, that's a time to say, it's great if you want marriage, it's great if you want a family, but I'm not going to force it with someone that cannot reciprocate that because it won't be fair to him or to me or to our future family. Now, the fourth question that I asked him is, tell me about the people closest to you. I want to know if you are able to have strong relationships. I want to know if you have friends, what those friends say about you. What drew you to them? How long have y'all been acquainted? What do you love about that person? Just tell me about your friendships. I think this is a fun one because those are potentially the people that are going to be, should this be the person you marry, your groomsmen and your bridesmaids. These are people that are going to be in your life for a long time. This is also going to be about family. Tell me about your family. How do you connect with your siblings? What do you love about your time that you spend with your brother? What are some things that stuck out of how your parents raised you that you want to reciprocate as you become a leader of your own family? Sensing some of these questions is, I think it's not so much you're looking for a specific answer, but you're looking for what lights up within them. I came from a little bit of a smaller nuclear family, but my husband he's one of 4 boys. They had a really big and tight-knit family, and I loved seeing that. And I never really thought, do I want a small or a big family? But he knew I do want a big family because I've seen this up close. I think that right there is an example of he didn't need an answer from me of, do you want a big family? Because I want a big family. Make it yes. But he wanted someone that did want a family and knew that that's something that we can grow and develop our own. But I loved seeing how he said, hey, we grew up this way and we did this. This was our special holidays, or this was our special thing we did at dinner time. My brothers and I do this now. I respect this about my mom and my dad. And it just showed me that, one, he was someone that was really intentional with the people around him, that he honored his parents, that he was really living out that biblical mantle of, honor your parents, love others, respect others, love thy neighbor. Which when I first read that verse when I was a little Christian, I thought, the person next to me next door, I really have to love them well. That verse means to honor those around you, to treat people with love and respect, and do unto them as you would want done unto you. So I saw him embodying that in the way that he talked about his friendships, the way he talked about his family, the evidence of him saying, yeah, this person and I are close, and we'd be hanging out. This is, of course, later, but we'd be hanging out, and that person would call him, and he'd say, okay, I'm going to call you later. Let's talk tomorrow. He treated his friends and family so well that I knew that I would be treated well as a wife. Again, and with all of these questions, I feel like they all could be their own divulging moment in their own episode, but I will say if someone is in a hard predicament where their family are not believers, there is some estrangement there, don't count them out, because I do also have people that have listened to this podcast that have said, I'm dating someone, they're incredible, they have great friendships, but their family dynamic is just so strained. But I see the fruit of how they've healed through that. They're not bitter, they're not remorseful, they're kind and loving, and they're still expectant for this to heal one day. Or their parents have gone through a divorce, and we don't have divorce in our family. You don't have to be looking for a perfect track record with this person, but you want to see, how does their heart respond to intimate and close relationships? Have they already harnessed that and they are going to use that as building blocks for our relationship? Or are they off-putting to those relationships? Do they not yet know how to form a close unity and how to care for other people? That would be something where I'd say you'd have a harder time as their wife starting from scratch, of them not having a willingness to grow in relationships. But if you see, man, they've overcome some stuff with people close to them, or they just really care for people, they have a great, history of loving people well, and they're really open to that being something that is part of their character, that is such a green flag, and just such a benefit to you as a wife. And I'll pick on myself at this time and say that I was in a season when I met my now husband of really deepening roots with my family. I had been on such a healing journey with God that I saw how there was some ways that our relationships were good but could go deeper. And so I was really pursuing that, and I feel like the Lord taught me a lot about myself, about healing, about how to love others even better through that season. And to my great gratitude and to my future husband's benefit, if I learned some of those qualities. And I was in a time where I graduated college and moved back home in high school. So I didn't have a lot of super close friends around me, but I had people that I'd known for years that I cared for. And so if you're thinking, man, I've been in a season of just praying for community and I don't feel like I have that, so can I not meet someone until I do? No, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying the attributes of being a good friend equate and benefit the attributes of being a good partner. And so friend to friend, if you are in a season of learning that, or you have the possibility to grow in that area, I would say take it and run with it, because it'll benefit you so much and it'll be such a gift to your future partner. Now, I have a bonus question just for you. Have you tried Good Ranchers yet? Because the same rings true, whether you are single and trying to look your best for your dates, or you just want to feel your best in any season of life, I found that Good Ranchers helps with both. Why? Because it's 100% American beef with zero sneaky additives or weird ingredients. Good Ranchers is a subscription service that brings quality meat straight to your doorstep, makes it super easy and able to make high quality meals that are going to make you feel good. And I get it. There's some of you that are saying, I'm ready to commit to a marriage, but I don't know if I'm ready to commit to another subscription service. Hey, that's okay. With Good Ranchers, you can actually try it out, pause, delay, or cancel your membership at any time. But I promise you're going to enjoy all the different types of meat you get. And as another bonus, because you are a Dear Future Husband subscriber, you are going to get $40 off and free meat for life when you start your new subscription today with Good Ranchers at the link below. So sign up now, get your box, and let me know what your favorite meal that you prep with your new meat is. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. And question number 5, I asked my now husband on our second date is, what does faith mean to you? What does it look like to follow God? In my case, I was in a situation where this person came from, a background that would really suggest that he is firm in his faith, but that wasn't enough for me because I'm from the Bible Belt. I know that it's one thing to go to church and then to have a relationship with God. And again, another pause here. If you're thinking, I go to church, but what do you mean have a relationship with God? There is so much more to the faith experience than just crossing a box off and saying, I go to church, I'm a Christian. There is an awakening that happens within your spirit, within your soul, within your whole person, that when you have a relationship with Christ, when He really dives into your heart, you just see this light bulb come on, and He permeates throughout all that you do and you say and you think, and it drives those good desires that you have, and it just gives so much more essence to who you are and how you spend your days. And so it was important to me that someone not just needed to go to church with me or to be like a Christian on paper so that we could get married, but they were alive in their faith as well. They had a relationship with the Creator, because one, if you want to have a good marriage, like that is just the most bread and butter essence to picking a spouse, is knowing that they are not relying just on how they're knit and their good intentions and their own willpower and, whatever it may be. It's that they're driven by something greater than themselves. Like, they're going to put in work to your relationship because they have faith. They're going to love you because they have faith. They're going to walk with you through the hard times because they have faith. So if you're wondering, man, is there something more to this life? Is there something more to the religious experience? Yes, there is. And I so encourage you to dive deeper, whether that's going to your local church or whether it's, just praying to God one-on-one, reading your Bible, letting it come alive to you. That's available. And when that's awoken, you notice a shift and a difference in yourself. And it can be easy to fake, I will say that, or it can be easy to be dormant too, because for years I had been a Christian and I had loved God, but I didn't know Him intimately. I didn't have like conversations with Him. I didn't really get much out of reading the Word until I feel like for me, I opened up parts of my heart that I had left uninhibited, that I was like, oh, you can come in this much, I'll worship you, I'll do this, I'll go to church. But to know the depths of my heart would mean to be vulnerable, to be open, to really even know myself. And so it's easier for me to fake that. Not that I was trying to, I didn't even really notice it, but I could notice that some things were not going as deep as they should. I could notice that some things were still a constant struggle for me when I did not wish them to be. And so I could tell a difference in myself when that was awoken, and when I had, this full relationship, living in the fullness relationship with Jesus. And so with my husband, I wanted to make sure that he was there too, or, at least that he wanted to be there, that he was on that path, right? And so for Arden, I just saw in the way that he talked about reading the Word, that he talked about how God was speaking to him, that he talked about the ways that He honored Him and that what he wanted to do with his life. All of these things built this steady heartbeat of there is something alive and working within him. He fears the Lord, he loves the Lord, he knows the Word, right? All of these things. And I think that's this trifecta of, I'm reading my Bible, and I fear the Lord. I want to do exactly what He's called me to. And I love the Lord. I know that He cares for me. And from that, I love Him. And I've accepted this beautiful gift of grace. It's all of those working together that makes that light bulb kind of turn on. And so through the way that he would talk about things, the way that he talked about faith, the way he'd say, man, I was reading this in the Bible and I saw this. And all of those things were evidence of that. And when I asked him this question point blank, he told me kind of similar to my own experience, honestly. He said, for years, I felt like I was riding on my parents' faith. And then there was this moment where it came alive, where I fully understood and I accepted Jesus and in this new way. And so he showed me, man, there's been this awakening experience in my life and it's changed me for the better. And so seeing that, I was like, yes, he gets it. He sensed what I sensed. And it was a beautiful confirmation for me. And maybe that's not your story. Maybe you're like, man, I got saved at a young age and I've known Jesus my whole life, and praise God for that. That's incredible. Or, man, I've been going to church, but I felt like something's missing. I'm ready to wake up to that even closer relationship. But what we don't want to do is just settle for, I go to church, isn't that good enough? Because there's just a longing that will still be there. And there can be unfulfillment. I mean, any marriage will go through times where you're like, man, I need an extra measure of grace, or I really wish I would have slept better last night. I'm being a little short, all this stuff, where you're going to need to know how to renew your mind, how to speak life into your soul. You're going to need to know how to honor one another when it's easier not to. And so that's the element where when faith is genuine and hard-pressed and active and hopeful, it just brings such this alleviation to your relationship. It brings your joy and this unification together. So that's why I think it's important to ask about someone's faith. So my goal with these 5 questions was to know, is this someone I want to continue seeing, and are they safe to romantically start getting involved with? Should I actually allow myself to have feelings? Should we keep going on dates, or are we on completely different playing fields right now? Again, these questions were: 1, what are your near future plans? 2, what is your dating experience and intentions? 3, what does building a family look like for you? 4, who are the closest people to you, and what's your relationship with your family, if you want to add that one in there? And then 5, what does faith look like to you? Now, I know we've had some people probably thinking this. We've had people comment it on the other video of, oh, if you ask these questions, he's just going to run away. If someone does run away from these type of questions, they may not be ready for marriage, and that would just further clarify that you should not be getting serious with them. I don't believe every man wants to be asked these questions right away. And maybe that is some discernment that you sort out for yourself. Hey, Christian, I love these questions, but I'm going to save them for a few dates in. That's totally fine. I'm not saying you have to have these on your second date. Our first date was hours long. We had this rare experience of meeting the family. So we probably were further along from that first date of getting to know each other than most people will be. So if you want to save these questions for a little later, if you want to spread them out, that is so fine. But I want you to bring these into the evaluation stage of getting to know each other, not into the, I already have feelings and we're already dating and there's already these ties here. I think there should be clarity before you're connected. Clarity begets connection. And I will just say it, whether you're a man watching this or you're a woman watching, we should be entering into dating because our intention is to marry. And I know that could be scary of like, oh, because I want to marry this person. I'm not saying you have to know exactly, you have the ring in your safe ready to go, but your heart should be, well, I do want to get married. Maybe I'm still in school and I know that would be a year or 2 out, or, I'm going to have some, whatever obstacle to still work through and questions to ask, but marriage is what I see on the horizon. It's not maybe when we get there one day. If that's where you are, I don't believe you're ready to start dating. Nor should you present yourself that way. And so my hope would be in this dating era, as we go into 2026, that we will have more people that are dating because they know that they want to get married. And to know that you want to get married and to be ready to date, you have to know who you are. So let's do that for my singles watching. Let's know who we are. Maybe there's some questions that I presented that you think, I'm going to add those to what I asked my potential husband one day, but I'm also going to do deep dives within myself, within my prayer time, so I know how I want to answer those. And let's understand that dating is a time not for just companionship and having a boyfriend because you want something to do on a Friday night or a weekend, or you don't want to be the solo person, but that having someone to date is having someone you're evaluating with for the next stage, for actual connection. We want to know that this time is purposeful. We want to do it well, and whatever that timeline may look like for you, because it will be different for all of us. How you meet's different. How you connect, what sticks out to you is going to be different. But do this for yourself. Have some type of runway that you're not just leaping into the air, like if I'm using a plane analogy, but you know that you're ready to take off. There's been the engine check. There's gas in your tank. You know that you have fuel to take these next steps with caution. And so that's my hope for you, especially my girls watching, is don't be afraid to ask the questions. Do them with wisdom, but know what you're getting into and know who you are and what you want. I'm still so amazed that is actually what led my husband to know, I want to marry that girl because she showed me who she is, she knows who she is, and she's willing to fight for it. To him, that communicated in his own words that I would fight for our relationship, that I would be present in our relationship, that he knew who he was getting into a relationship with. And I think that's something that we all can benefit from. And so men watching, I want you to rise to the challenge of know that you're ready for marriage once you start looking for someone to date. And don't be afraid of the questions. Look for a woman that's going to challenge you, that's going to call you higher, that knows she wants to be a wife and a partner, and be willing to do the same thing. Be ready to be a husband and a father and a partner and committed. And let's romanticize this idea of knowing we want to be in strong relationships rather than just being this careless chase. I think that can be in the last decade. Let's leave that in 2025, and let's prioritize relationships that are strong, that are healthy, and that we're unashamed to be in and that we want to fight for. I hope that these questions brought some type of clarity to you, and I want to hear, are there questions that you've asked on your dates that have led to more clarity and connection? Are there any that you have more questions about? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing from you, and I cannot wait to see you next Thursday for our next episode. This has been Christian Bevere, and I'll see you next time.